So I've gained around 3 to 4 kg over the last, I'd say, 4 to 6 weeks, with a minimal amount of it being fat. So if we look at these pictures, I've got some thickness in my arms, a bit fuller in my chest and my shoulders as well, which is nice. And if I look at my back, my thickness in my upper back has improved a decent amount as well, whilst not adding too much fat. So you might be struggling with how to do this properly, like how do I build muscle without gaining excess fat? And by the end of this video, you'll have a much clearer understanding on how to do this properly, because I'm going to give you my exact plan that I'm following at the moment. And this is realistic, it's not some bullshit, because I'm natural, I'm not steadied out of my head, and I'm teaching you from experience. So let's go. The first point is a small caloric surplus. To gain weight and build muscle, you need to be in a caloric surplus, which means you eat more food than your body takes in during the day. And there's a couple of ways you can go about it. You can consume a lot more, or you can consume a little more. Now I choose to have a small caloric surplus, because that way I put on as little fat as possible. So a rule of thumb you want to remember is the bigger the surplus, the faster you'll gain weight, but the more fat you will accumulate alongside that as well. So I'd say you aim for around 300 to 500 calories per day for your surplus, and you start at the low end. So go for something like 300 calories and see over the next 2 weeks if you are gaining weight. If you are gaining good weight, 0.25 kg per week, that's cool, stick at that. If you're not gaining weight, then you bump up the calories. So you want to start small and then increase depending on your results. Now there's something that I want to call a sweet spot, and this honestly varies from person to person. So it's when you're not in such a small surplus that you're not gaining weight, but you're not in such a high surplus that you're gaining excess fat. The sweet spot in the middle is where you're gaining weight and muscle, but with as minimal fat as possible. Now how much that surplus is for each person honestly varies and depends. That's why I'm telling you to start small and keep going up until you find that place which is helping you build muscle with minimal fat. So we're going to refer to the sweet spot throughout this video, so keep that in mind. Now the next point I want to talk about is insulin sensitivity. So this is how well your body responds to a hormone called insulin. And this is responsible for moving glucose, which is broken down by the carbs and foods that you eat, into your cells. So basically when you eat carbs, your body breaks that food down into glucose, and insulin's job is to move that glucose into your cells. Ideally muscle cells. And the higher sensitivity you have, the more goes into muscle. The lower sensitivity you have, the more goes into fat. Now if your body is overloaded with food and you're not using that energy properly and efficiently, then you'll have more storage in fat and less storage in muscle. So this is very, very important when you're bulking, because you're obviously eating more, so you need the body to handle those extra calories efficiently. So it's not just about how much you eat, but how well your body uses it as well. This is one of the main reasons why some people can bulk and still maintain a decent amount of leanness and add minimal fat, while other people just blow up really, really quickly. So how am I doing this daily? Let's jump into that. The first is daily steps. I'm not just walking to burn calories, I'm walking to stay metabolically active, right? But you can easily burn 100 to 300 calories just depending on how much you walk a day. Now this is really effective, because let's say one day or a couple of days of the week you really overshoot your calories and you're getting into that red zone. That extra walk that you go for 45 minutes, maybe 60 minutes, can help burn those calories and put you back into that green, that sweet spot. Now this is really effective because it allows you to stay in the sweet spot without frying your central nervous system. Because let's say you've gone into the red, now I'm telling you to do some sort of HIIT workout or go on a massive jog or do another session, that's gonna tire you out. But because you're just doing a nice steady walk, you can come back in the green without tiring yourself out. Also, walking after a meal helps regulate blood glucose, so your body is transporting that more efficiently and using it. And some other benefits: it doesn't increase your appetite like some heavy session. It improves your training recovery, so you can train better the next day. It keeps your digestion smooth, and you can literally do it at any time. Next point is to clean bulk, and I don't mean just eating bland chicken rice with a splash of broccoli on the side. I mean just sticking to whole foods 80 to 90% of the time and using your favorite seasonings, sauces and marinations as you please. So good examples of that is meats, fruits, rice, potatoes, oats, eggs, etc. Now you're probably thinking, Nathan, isn't macros the most important thing when it comes to gaining weight, why does the quality of foods matter? I'll tell you right now. Processed foods can make it super easy for you to overshoot your calories. Let's look at an example. Both of these foods are 100 grams. So you've got 100 grams of white chocolate and you've got 100 grams of yogurt with some fruit. Now the 100 gram of white chocolate has 550 calories, whereas 100 grams of berries has somewhere between 150 to 200 calories. Now if you look at the food itself, the yogurt ball will fill you up more, it's more nutritious, and it has less calories. So having more of these foods can help keep you in that sweet spot that we mentioned. Plus, when you have something that's highly tasty like white chocolate and sweets and things like that, it gives you a craving to want more. So now that 100 gram turns into 150, can easily turn to 200 over the next couple of days. So now you've added on an extra 2,000, 3,000 calories of just chocolate. That's how you end up gaining unwanted fat. Another point is trans fats, seed oils, and ultra processed foods can heavily mess up your hormonal regulation, and it can also mess up your daily energy levels. Because when you eat highly processed and highly sugary foods, your blood sugar levels spike massively, and after every spike, it leads to a crash. And when you have a crash like that, that's when you have these low mood, these cravings, and these silly thoughts of overeating and doing stupid shit starts to kick in. So if you're having good nutritious food, you can maintain a good blood sugar level, which helps you stay consistent with the plan and gain minimal fat. And the next point is actually training intensity. Now it doesn't actually have a direct impact on the fat gain you have, but it does still play an important part in my opinion. So if you up the ante of your training, for example, you add an extra session per week, you start going to failure more, you increase your sets, your reps, the weights that you're lifting, maybe add an exercise, you have more muscle damage and more progressive overload, which equals better nutrient partitioning, meaning the nutrients that are consumed are pulled into the muscles more than the fat. Because if you're going to the gym and you're training harder and you're forcing your muscles to work harder, that in turn needs to use energy to do that. So where does the energy go from the food that you eat? Into the muscles. And resistance training is one of the best ways to improve insulin sensitivity, because the more muscle you have, the more your body can store carbs inside those muscles to use for later, which means you have a less likelihood of the food that you're eating turning into fat. That's all from me. Goodbye.